Welcome, the silent architects of reality. You've seen this movie before, haven't you? Not on a screen, but in the living room, in the boardroom, in the subtle glances exchanged across a crowded room. People are writing the final chapters of their own disasters, reading the script out loud through their daily habits, and yet they fully expect you to be shocked when the finale finally airs. But you never are. While the rest of the world is busy decorating the room, you are quietly checking the foundation. You are looking at the cracks in the drywall. Most people are addicted to the element of surprise. They use it as a shield. If an outcome is unexpected, it means nobody is to blame. It means they don't have to take accountability. But you refuse to play along with that delusion. You understand a fundamental truth that makes people deeply uncomfortable. Human beings are aggressively predictable. We run on scripts. We recycle our insecurities. We repackage our fears in different outfits, hoping nobody notices. And then, when the inevitable happens, the room erupts in chaos. Someone looks at you, wide-eyed, and whispers, "How did you know? You predicted this perfectly." They look at you like you hold a crystal ball, but you don't possess magic. You just possess attention. You are simply awake in a world that prefers to sleepwalk. This isn't just about being right. It is about how you process the matrix of human behavior. Let's break down the blueprint of how your mind works and why your quiet observations shake people to their core. Phase 1. The intake. Gathering the unseen. Tracking the micrometrics of behavior. The world is obsessed with words. People build entire relationships, careers, and identities on what they say they are going to do. They sell grand intentions and beautiful promises. But you learned a long time ago that intentions are cheap. They are the currency of fools. You don't listen to intentions. You track the micrometrics of behavior. Imagine a colleague in your workplace. Let's call him the collaborator. He speaks brilliantly in meetings, promising synergy, shared victories, and open communication. Everyone loves him. Everyone buys into the narrative. But you notice the discrepancy. You see that he consistently forgets to CC the right people on critical emails. You notice how he slightly shifts blame when a deadline is tight. You watch how his physical posture closes off when someone else is praised. You aren't being cynical. You are collecting data. While everyone else is investing in his words, you are auditing his actions. Because you know that behavior, especially under pressure, never lies. It is the only metric that matters. When that colleague eventually takes credit for a massive project and throws the team under the bus, the office is in an uproar. They feel betrayed. You just take a sip of your coffee. You aren't surprised, because you read the fine print of his character months ago. You know that a person's repeated actions are a preview of their destination. The symphony of the unsaid. But it goes deeper than just watching actions. Your true advantage lies in your ability to hear the symphony of the unsaid. Most people are deafened by noise. They focus on the loud arguments, the grand gestures, the explosive moments. But you live in the negative space. You pay attention to the pause before a person answers a simple question. You notice the flicker of a micro-expression, a flash of contempt or fear that crosses their face for a fraction of a second before the polite smile returns. You notice the topics they aggressively avoid. Silence is never empty for you. Deflection is a flashing neon sign. When a friend insists they are totally fine with a perceived slight, but their breathing shallows and their jaw tightens, you don't take the word fine at face value. You log the tension. You understand that people constantly leak the truth through their pores, even as their mouths construct elaborate lies. Your mind catches these invisible signals with brutal clarity. You don't need a confession to know someone's motives. The hesitation was the confession. The avoidance was the answer. By listening to what people refuse to say, you construct a high-definition image of reality that everyone else is viewing in a pixelated blur. Phase 2. The processing, neutrality, and timelines. The weapon of emotional detachment. Gathering data is only half the equation. What truly separates you from the crowd is what you do with that data. You process it through the lens of profound emotional neutrality. This is where people get confused. They assume that to be so accurate, you must be a hypercritical, obsessive mastermind. But the reality is the exact opposite. Your accuracy stems from the fact that you simply do not care about being right. You have removed your ego from the equation. Most people view the world through a filter of desperation. They desperately need their partner to be loyal. They need their boss to be fair. They need their friends to be genuine. This emotional attachment warps their vision. They ignore blazing red flags because acknowledging them would hurt too much. They sugarcoat reality to protect their fragile comfort zones. You don't have that luxury. Or rather, you have cultivated the discipline to reject it. When you observe a situation, you don't twist the facts to fit a happy narrative. If a puzzle piece is jagged and ugly, you don't force it into a smooth space. You let it be jagged. You observe without the interference of hope or fear. Because you aren't emotionally attached to the outcome, your vision is unobstructed. You aren't trying to prove a point. You are simply witnessing the math of human nature. This calm, detached clarity is your greatest weapon. It is why your insights land with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. The architecture of timelines. Because you are detached, you are able to think in timelines, rather than isolated moments. The average person suffers from a severe case of timeline myopia. They exist entirely in the present moment. If something bad happens, they view it as an anomaly, a sudden lightning strike, out of a clear blue sky. You see the atmospheric pressure dropping days in advance. You see the clouds forming. You know that human behavior operates on the law of cause and effect. Think about a toxic friendship circle. You see one friend make a subtly degrading joke about another. Everyone laughs it off. It's just banter, they say. But you don't see a joke. You see a domino falling. You recognize that tolerated disrespect breeds resentment. You know that resentment breeds passive aggression. You know that passive aggression eventually detonates into open conflict. You are already mapping the trajectory. You don't just see the action, you see the inevitable destination it leads to. By the time the friendship group inevitably implodes in a mess of drama and tears 6 months later, you are already mentally checked out. You didn't predict the future. You just followed the logical progression of unchecked behavior. You see the whole journey before anyone else even registers that the first step has been taken. The forge of failure. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. People look at your track record and assume you were born with this flawless intuition. What they don't see is the graveyard of your past mistakes. Your insight wasn't gifted to you. It was forged in the fire of failure. You have been wrong before. You have trusted the wrong people. You have misjudged situations and paid a heavy price for it. But unlike the masses, who bury their mistakes out of shame, you dissected yours. When you got burned, you didn't just cry about the pain. You studied the fire. You turned your missteps into a psychological laboratory. You asked yourself, what did I miss? What red flag did I excuse? What micro-expression did I ignore? Every time you were wrong, you updated your internal algorithm. You created a mental database of human triggers, behaviors, and consequences. Your current accuracy is simply the compound interest of your past errors. This gives you a quiet humility. You don't brag. You don't seek validation. You just observe, backed by the scars of experience, knowing that your internal compass is now calibrated to true north. Phase 3. The collision. Reality versus illusion. Triggering their cognitive dissonance. And here is where the friction begins. When you see the world this clearly, you inevitably collide with people who are committed to their blindness. Have you ever noticed that when you point out a pattern, you are rarely met with gratitude? Instead, you are called negative, cynical, or overthinking. This is not a reflection of your character. It is a manifestation of their cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the mental pain a person feels when their beliefs contradict reality. When you calmly state an uncomfortable truth, when you point out that someone's relationship is failing, or a business plan is doomed due to laziness, you are threatening the fantasy they rely on to feel safe. They don't get mad because you are wrong. They get mad because you are right, and your rightness demands that they take action. If they accept your observation, they have to change their life. They have to confront the liar, quit the job, or leave the relationship. That requires courage. It is infinitely easier to attack the messenger than to face the message. So, they label you as the problem. They accuse you of ruining the mood. But you must understand this. Your clarity isn't negative. Reality is neutral. The truth doesn't care about their feelings, and your refusal to participate in their collective hallucination makes you an existential threat to their comfort. The hidden cost of being early. This brings us to the heaviest burden of the observant mind, the sheer, crushing isolation of being early. There is a profound loneliness in seeing the crash before the car even leaves the driveway. When you sound the alarm, you are met with blank stares. You are ostracized. You are made to feel crazy. You have to learn to protect your energy. You cannot force blind people to see the sun, no matter how eloquently you describe the light. You have to develop the resilience to stand alone in your truth, knowing that time is the ultimate judge. You stop trying to save people from the lessons they need to learn. You stop seeking their validation. You realize that your foresight is not a tool to control others. It is a shield to protect yourself. You adjust your own boundaries. You move your chess pieces quietly. You let them roll their eyes. You find peace in your solitude, knowing that validation delayed is not validation denied. The ultimate realization. Eventually, the clock runs out. The patterns complete their cycle. The truth breaks down the door. And suddenly, the outcome you predicted months ago is standing right in front of them. The silence in the room is deafening. Then comes the shock. The nervous laughter. The "no way, you called it." But pay close attention to their eyes in that moment. That reaction isn't just about the event. The real reason they are shaken to their core is a much deeper, more terrifying realization. In that moment, they realize that you didn't just see the situation clearly. You saw them clearly. They realize that while they were performing, projecting, and hiding behind their masks, you were reading their soul. They realize that their omissions, their lies, and their carefully constructed facades were completely transparent to you the entire time. It humbles them. It strips away their arrogance. They recognize that you operated on a frequency they couldn't even tune into. You weren't guessing. You weren't lucky. You were quietly, undeniably aware. And nothing is more disarming to a person living in an illusion than realizing they are standing naked in the light of someone else's truth. The final word. Your insight is not a parlor trick. It is a profound alignment with the mechanics of reality. You see the trajectories. You read the unsaid. You study the behavior. You embrace the neutrality. Do not let a sleeping world make you feel guilty for having your eyes open. Let them call you negative. Let them call you arrogant. Let them scramble in the chaos of their own making. You just keep observing. Keep trusting your internal compass. Keep honoring the patterns. If this resonated with you, if you have spent your life feeling like a quiet observer in a loud world, you are not alone. You belong to a rare breed of thinkers. Subscribe to this channel so we can continue to navigate this matrix together. Hit the like button to signal to others that the silent majority is waking up. Share this with someone who needs the validation that their clarity is a gift, not a curse. Protect your peace. Trust your vision. and never apologize for seeing the truth before the world is ready for it. Until next time, stay observant,